Hello friends, welcome to part 6 of this video series. In this video, I will talk about performing software upgrade and downgrade of DDI appliances. I will start by showing you how to view the current NIOS software version that you're running and talk about the things that you should be knowing before you perform an upgrade. That includes how to take up a backup and how to restore that NIOS backup that you have taken. Then I will explain about the different types of upgrade supported by Infoblox DDI appliances. Then I'll cover about the upgrade groups and about the different steps involved in the upgrade process. After that, I will explain how to perform scheduled upgrades and distribution. I will also explain you the order in which the distribute and upgrade happens. Finally, I will show you how to apply a hotfix and how to perform a NIOS downgrade. So let's get started. So let's start with how to get the current software version that your Infoblox grid, or if you are having a standalone appliance, is running or having. So for that, there are two ways you can get that. One is through the UI. That is by navigating to grid, upgrade, and the grid version info section will be having it. And the second method is through the CLI by issuing a command show version. So let me show you each one of them. So this is the Infoblox UI, and when you log in, this is where you're going to that's what you're going to see. We'll go to the grid tab, and from here we need to click on the upgrade tab. And under the grid version information section, you can see the current version that this particular, or the NIOS software this particular grid is running on. And the second method is through the CLI. As you can see, this is the CLI of the grid master, and by using the command show version, I'm able to see the version. And also I could see that the hotfix is not applicable because I have not applied any hotfix onto this. Onto this appliance. So let's get back to the slide. So now this 8.2.4-36680. So now I'll tell you, so that's the version I'm running. So now I'll tell you how to read this version. So the portion 8.2 is called the major release, and the portion 4-6366880 is called the patch release. So depending on the NIOS version your system is currently running, there may not be a direct upgrade path to the latest NIOS version. Hence, the system or your grid needs to be upgraded to an intermediate NIOS version, and from there to the latest version. So basically, rather than just going from your current version to the latest version, you might have to take an immediate hop. So that's what we call the upgrade path. So for you to figure out the upgrade path, if you're planning to do an upgrade, then you need to read the release notes of a particular release to which you are planning to upgrade, which will have, or which will tell you the information about the upgrade paths you need to take. So that release notes will have all the information that you're looking for. So moving ahead, so the next section is the backup and the restore of NIOS configuration. So this is recommended because if you're going to do an upgrade and if you feel that something is not right, yes, there is an option called revert, but it's always a good practice that you take a backup of the current grid master configuration before you do any upgrade or anything. Basically, like if you're planning to make some changes, then also it's advisable that you take a backup. So to take a backup, you need to go. So when you say backup includes all configurations, networks, the DNS zones, the DHCP networks, everything present in the grid. So what we do is that if you have to take a backup, we need to go to the UI, the Infoblox UI, and navigate to grid manager and backup. So let me just show you that. So grid manager, and here we have an option under the toolbar. We have this backup. So if you click on this drop down menu, there are multiple ways we can configure this backup. So either I can do it a manual backup right now, or I can actually schedule a backup. So right now I'll just go with the manual. I'm going to take a backup right now. So I just need to click on backup, and in here I can either directly download the backup to my machine, or I can use any of these protocols and I can just transfer it to a FTP server or SCP server. But yeah, for this tutorial I'll just download a backup to my local machine, and as you can see, the database.back file has been downloaded, and this file is what we need if we need to restore it. So again, the restoration process is straightforward. It means that if you want the current whatever configuration that we are currently running, that includes configuration and all the networks, zones, etc. If you want to have an exact replica of what we are running right now, so I need to just use this database.back that we just this file, and I need to use it while restoring. So again, restore also, I just need to click on restore, and I can provide the different options, like different sources via which this file can be read from. So currently I'm having it in my computer or my local machine, and I can just use this select option and then just browse for the file. So so that's how the restore works. But now I'll tell you what this option is about: force restore from a different grid. So let's say if you are having multiple environments of your Infoblox appliance, and if you want to if you want to migrate, or if you are taken a backup from one environment, and if you want to use that environment configuration in another environment. For example, if you have a dev van test, and if you want to have the same configuration that is in your test environment, so it will be like you are not restoring the backup to the same grid from where you have initially downloaded it. So in that case, when you are taking a backup from one grid and restoring to another grid, that's when you have to use checkbox this option, and you have to use retain current grid master IP settings, because if this option is not checked, what will happen is that IP address will exactly be the same as that of the other grid's IP address. So that means you will not be, that means it will lead to duplicate IP issues, or it will, or else even if that particular, that environment is not reachable also, but that will cause a lot of problems, because the reason why you are using this environment is because it has its own set of IPs and all. So you need to use the retain current grid master IP settings, or else the IP address will also be modified to an IP address what is present in this particular backup file. Okay, so and now for doing the restore, it's just click on this restore button, and that should do it. But right now in this video I'll not be doing that. So yeah, so let's proceed. I hope you got an idea what backup and restore is. Now I'll explain to you what are the different types of upgrades. So Infoblox supports two types of upgrades: the Lite upgrade and the full upgrade. So Lite upgrade occurs when a NIOS version is getting upgraded from one patch release to another patch release. That means there won't be any change in the database schema. An example would be like if I'm upgrading from 8.2.4-X to 8.2.5.Y. The appliance, while doing a Lite upgrade, the appliance doesn't reboot after the upgrade is complete. And also a test, there is a stage called test, and I will explain to you what are the different stages in toward the later part of this video. But as of now, understand that this test stage or phase would be skipped for a Lite upgrade. And for a full upgrade, so this occurs when the NIOS version is getting upgraded from one major release to another major release, and there will be some changes in the database schema. So it's like, some new tables will be added, or there will be changes in the database. So that's when Infoblox normally uh, come up with a major release. Okay, so an example of to that would be like from 8.2.4 to 8.3.0. Okay, so after a full upgrade, the appliance does a reboot. So if you are having a standalone appliance, then there would be a downtime for your network services that is running on that particular appliance or member. And if it's an HA, then yes, there would be a small downtime when the passive node gets you know will be it transition to active. So there would be a small downtime, but it's very less. But that's altogether a different thing, which I'll not be covering in this video. So moving ahead, the next thing is upgrade groups. So the purpose of the upgrade groups is to minimize the impact when we are doing off-grid upgrade on the network services running on the appliances. So like I said, normally when we do an upgrade, if you are having a standalone appliance, the device reboots. So at time there would be an impact on the network services that particular member is running on. So that's where this concept of upgrade groups Infoblox has implemented, or that option Infoblox has provided us. So you can, or what it does is that you can organize members into upgrade groups. You can have multiple upgrade groups, and then you can organize your members so that and then you can configure while if you are planning to do an upgrade or distribute. Again, I'll explain to you what distribute is in a minute, but the thing is, like, it will give you the flexibility to define which all members or which all appliances needs to be upgraded in one go, and so that things will not happen simultaneously or in parallel. Like, it will be in a sequential manner, so that not all of your devices will reboot in one go, which will widen the impact. It will be like one member and then another member, like that. So that's how that upgrade group, that's the purpose of the upgrade groups. And by default, a grid comes with two upgrade groups. Basically, actually, it's three if you have some reporting members added to this grid. But if not, then it's only two: the grid master group and the default group. So let me show you how to view your upgrade groups. So for that, we need to come to grid, upgrade tab, and you have to click on this toggle group view. So as you can see, these are the two default groups that we have. And if you see here, my grid, even though it's a grid, I have only one grid master. So I don't have any members in this grid, and that's why the default group is showing empty. So if I'm having members, if I have like a couple of members or even just one member, that member will be, by default, it will be showing in the default group. And I'll just so let's say we don't add any new upgrade groups within this upgrade, the default upgrade group. I have an option to specify how the members in that group needs to behave during the distribute as well as during the upgrade. I have an option to either, if I click on simultaneously, then all the members within this group will be, the distribution will happen simultaneously, and again the same with the upgrade also. I have this two options: simultaneous or sequential. So this way it gives the user control on how and when these devices needs to be, the distribution should happen as well as the upgrade should happen. And if I can actually, create more upgrade groups, for example, test, and I can also I can add some of the members into this group, and I can tell them like, I can specify how the members in which I'm adding into this particular test group should behave in case of distribution as well as in upgrade. I hope it's that simple. Like, if you want to minimize the impact, you can just use the sequential. But if you're doing it in a test environment where there is no impact, then yeah, you can just do it. You can set it to simultaneously so that you can minimize the time for which the the distribution or the upgrade will happen. So it's again, it just gives you the flexibility. But let me just let me add one new group so that when I'm explaining about the scheduled distribution and upgrade, it will be useful there. So let me create this one, and yeah. Okay, so now I hope you got an idea about what the upgrade groups are. So let's get going. So now I will explain to you about the different steps in the upgrade process. So the upgrade process is comprised of 4 steps. The first is the upload. So this upload, here we are uploading, in this step what we are doing is we are uploading the latest image, or if you are going to a latest release, so that will have an image file. You can download it from the Infoblox support site. So once you have the image, you have to upload that image into the grid master. So that's what the upload stage does. And then let me show you first of all here. So again, come to grid, then they click on upgrade tab. So this is the 4 steps, and right now only upload is active and all the others are grayed out because we need to upload a file for this thing to get started. And since right now I'm running on the latest version, so I cannot show you in this video the upgrade process, but I will just walk you through. I'll explain to you. So the next step is the distribute phase, or the distribute stage. So what it does is the grid master, which actually has the file or the latest image files, will unpack the file or the contents of the file, and it will distribute to all the standalone members. And if you are having some HA members, it will distribute that files only to the active node of the HA. And once the active node of the HA gets it, through the block sync, which I have already explained in my previous video about how the communication between the nodes in an HA, the active and the passive node in an HA happen, through that process called block sync, these files will be synced from the active node to the passive node. And if your grid master and the members are in 2 different geographical locations, then distribute, it's better that you do a scheduled distribution, because that way you can schedule the distribution to happen on during non-business hours, so that the network load will be less, and the member will be able to get all the files, because it's a huge file. Like, it could be like 1 gig, 2 gig file, and if the grid master and the members are in 2 different geographical locations, then you need to ensure that the bandwidth is not too much utilized when we are doing a distribute. So that's why the best time to do it is after the regular business hours. Okay, so I hope you understood the concept of distribute. Basically, from the grid master, we are distributing that file or the set of files which is required for the upgrade to all the members, and to the if a member is HA, then it will be sent only to the active node. So now the next process is the test. So as if you remember, or I have explained in the Lite upgrade, there is no this stage is skipped. It is because there is no schema, there is no change in the database, so there won't be any potential data migration issues. So, but if you are upgrading from one major release to another major release, then yes, there could be, and that's why we do this test, to resolve any potential data migration issues even before the actual upgrade happens. So that will be automatically taken care by Infoblox. You don't have to do anything, manually. And the last step is the upgrade step. And in this step or stage, the new release gets copied and or installed to onto another partition. Like we in the appliance, since it's running a Red Hat. I mean, sorry, it is running a Linux distribution, and I believe it's using Red Hat. I'm not sure, or I don't recollect to be to be frank. Yeah, but it since it's using a Linux distribution, we are having different partitions, and at the firmware or the software that or the NIOS software that is running on our device as of now, it's actually running on one partition. So what happens during the upgrade stage is that the device will copy or install to another partition, and once the installation or the copying of all the required files is completed, then the device reboots from this new partition so that it can boot up with the new software version. So that's, I hope you got an idea about what are the different 4 steps, what are the different steps involved in the upgrade process. So now let me explain to you what schedule upgrades and distribution does. So as the name suggests, rather than distributing or upgrading immediately, you can actually schedule it to minimize the impact. This way, you don't have to do an upgrade during the business hours, regular business hours, so that way you can reduce the impact. And then the upgrade, so this is where mainly the upgrade groups comes in handy. So I'll just show you how you can schedule a distribution and upgrade process. Let's get back to Infoblox UI. So if you want to distribute your schedule distribution, but before that, once you have the if you have uploaded the file, then this distribute will be active. So if you click on distribute there itself and no scheduled distribution has been configured, then the distribution will happen real time then and there. But if you have configured schedule distribution, and if you have selected this option and if you have set this time, then you have the option to, or you have the flexibility to define, first of all, at what time the distribution should begin. And also right now you can see the two, because we don't see the gridmaster group in here, because there we don't have any control. Obviously the gridmaster is the first one into which the distribution happens. So that's the reason why you don't see that group here. But yeah, you see the default group and then the test group which I created. So here you have the flexibility to say, you can say if you want this to be the first group or the members of this group to be in which the distribution should start, then you can just select this option after gridmaster. And if you want, but let's say if there are multiple groups like test 1, test 2, test 3, then you can, and I want test 1 group to start the distribution to start on the test 1 immediately after the default group, then I can just say after default. So this way I have the flexibility to define exactly when the distribution should happen to all the members of my grid. So I hope that's clear. It's not that complicated. And then once you've done that, you just have to do a save and close. Okay, so it seems like we have to set the time. So let's say I'm planning it on March 27th. So also one thing to note that I cannot have multiple schedule, I cannot, whether it's a distribution or upgrade, I cannot have multiple instances of I cannot have multiple dates scheduled. So if previously if there was some date defined and if I'm doing it again, then that will be overwritten. So that's what the last message was showing or indicating. Okay, so that was about the distribution process. And like I said, distribution will not do anything. It will just distribute the required files from the grid master to the members. And then the next is the upgrade. So upgrade, let's to to access the scheduled upgrade, then you just have to click on the drop down menu next to the upgrade, and then you have it here. And the working is exactly the same. How the schedule part is exactly the same. Like, you can tell when exactly the members, the members that is in the default group should start to start its upgradation. For example, I can set after grid master, so that means immediately after the grid master gets upgraded, the members in this default group will start to upgrade. And the same again, if you have multiple custom, or if you have multiple upgrade groups, then yeah, so you can just specify which one to start, or you have the flexibility. I hope it's that straightforward. Yes. And then yeah, let's give a time, and then we need to do a second close. Upgrade dependent groups for upgrade time. Okay, so this error states that I have, for this yes group, I haven't specified when I need the upgrade to happen. So I will just say that after default, and then I click save and close. So that also is done. So after you schedule, whether it's a distribution or upgrade, you will see the time when the distribution or the upgrade is scheduled. So let's get back to the slide. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So now I'm going to explain to you the order in which the distribute and upgrade happens. Like, I've already explained to you like how you can tweak the order by creating upgrade groups, and uh, you know and within the upgrade groups also you can define like whether uh, you know whether the upgrade or distribute should happen in a sequential manner, or like simultaneously. But let's say you don't have, but what I'm going to explain to you is, uh, for the time being, let's consider that you don't have any additional upgrade groups configured. So in that scenario, I will first assume that there is nothing, no additional upgrade groups configured. Then I will walk you through these two scenarios. Like, first scenario is a standalone grid master and standalone members. So here it's pretty straightforward. When when both the grid master and the member are standalone appliances and not configured in HA, then what happens is, first we upload the file onto the grid master, and then the grid master will distribute that file. It will distribute the files and the contents of the files to the corresponding standalone members. And then that's how the distribution happen. And then once we click, once the upgrade starts, first the grid master itself gets upgraded, and then the members will start to get upgraded, depending on whether it's a sequential or simultaneous. It depends on what you have configured on the default upgrade group. So that's scenario one is pretty simple, and that's but I just included that scenario. But yeah, the scenario is two is where we have the grid master and the members both are like configured in HA. And even if, let's say, this second scenario 2 has members which is standalone, then it would be similar to what we saw on scenario 1. So that's why I'm in scenario 2 I'm saying that the grid master is in HA, and also like the members are also in HA. And let's say we have 3 members and 1 grid master and 3 members, everything configured in HA. So if you have any confusion regarding the HA and how these members are configured, or how the grid master is configured in HA, then you can just refer back to my a video which I have included in this video tutorial. So that should give you, that should clear all your doubts about what this HA is, if in case you have any doubts. Yeah, so coming back to this one. So in the scenario 2, if we have a grid master uh, uh, in HA configuration, the upload stage, there is not much difference. When we are uploading, the file will be uploaded to the active grid master, whichever, not the passive one. It will be first uploaded to the active one, and during the distribution phase, the active grid master node will, through block sync, it will distribute to its passive node, and also the active grid master will distribute that file after unpacking that image file of the required files to all the active nodes of its members. It will not distribute to the passive nodes. It will just distribute only to the active node of the HA members. And now it's the active node, and now it's the how, if you ask me, like how the files gets transferred from the active to passive, then it happens through block sync. It For that, the grid master doesn't have any role in this one. So for distribution, the grid master active node of the grid master distributes to only to its passive node, and it will distribute to all the active nodes of the HA members. And once the active nodes of the HA member has that particular set of files, then through block sync they will sync that files, and so that the passive nodes will also get it. Yeah, so that was about the distribution. So now I'll talk about the upgrade process in scenario 1. Again, it's very simple. Like, first the grid master gets upgraded, and then the members will start to get upgraded depending on the configuration that you have provided on the default upgrade group. Now in scenario 2, this is where the real advantage of HA comes in. So the actual upgrade, or first of all, the actual upgrade doesn't start on the active node of the grid master. Instead, it starts, or the first thing, the first node that gets updated is the passive grid master node. So that the network services or all the operations remains intact. Like, the active node will just do its job when the passive node will be the first one to get the passive node of the grid master will be the first node to get upgraded. So now after the upgrade is completed, it will do a reboot and it will boot up with the new NIOS version. So once it does that, it will do a failover. So during the failover, now the earlier passive node will transition to an active node, and it will and also the earlier active one, or the node which was already active, will transition to a passive state. So the only downtime in case of HA for the network services that is configured or running on the Infoblox appliances running on HA is during the failover time. So that will be like less than like 10 to 15 seconds, but yeah, there would be some impact on that, like for that 10-15 seconds when the actual failover is happening and the services are being taken up by the former passive node, which has now transitioned to the active node. So that's how the upgrade process happens. And for the grid master, so now once the grid master has been upgraded, like after the passive node has transitioned to an active node, then the same behavior is seen on all the HA members also. That is, the passive node of the HA member gets upgraded, and after the passive device or the passive node gets upgraded, it does a reboot, and after the reboot, it boots up with the new NIOS version, and then it does a failover, and now the passive one transition to active one, and it will take care of all the network services associated to that one. In the meantime, the active one, which is currently passive, will start its upgrade process. So after the upgrade, if let's say we have node 1 and node 2, assuming that before the upgrade node 1 is the active and node 2 is the passive across the grid master and all the members. So after the upgrade, after the failover has happened, now node 2 will be the active node and node 1 will be the passive node for the grid master and all the members. Yeah, so just wanted to include this one also on this video. So that's why I included this this slide in here. So I think this is the last topic, and this is about how to apply a hotfix and how to do a NIOS upgrade, NIOS downgrade. So hotfix is like, sometimes you don't need, you have a very specific issue which your grid is having, or let's say one specific member of a grid is having. So instead of, and you are not you cannot do an upgrade right now, so you contact the Infoblox support, and they work with the development team, and they release the hotfix and give it to you. So then what you can do is you can just apply a hotfix on a very specific member, or you can apply it on a grid. So depending on what your issue was and what the support guys have suggested, you have to do it. So how to do it is like, go to grid, go to upgrade tab, and here you see the apply hotfix. So if you click on the this drop down menu, you will see that you can apply the hotfix to grid master and all members, to grid master only, and or to grid master and grid master candidate. And if I have selected, if currently, because I don't have any members, so that's why the fourth option is grayed out. I hope that's that it's as simple as that. Just whatever file they give you, click on this hotfix and then just upload it, and it will be done. Then the last option is the grid downgrade. So for grid downgrade, firstly you need to understand that a grid downgrade is not possible. So even though I said grid, actually it's just the downgrade. The grid cannot be downgraded. The only a standalone appliance which is not a part of, means it's okay to have grid license, but if you don't have any members on that particular appliance, or you can downgrade that particular appliance. But the point is that you can downgrade only a single appliance. If you have another appliance joined to the grid, then it's not possible. Basically, grid cannot be downgraded. And also, let's say if you have a standalone appliance, and if you still go ahead and do a downgrade, all the data that is currently residing in that particular appliance, when I say data, means networks, the zones, all those information will be wiped off from after the downgrade. So I hope the downgrade is also clear. So now let's quickly cycle through all the things that we learned today. So first I explained to you how to view the current software version, and I've talked about the upgrade parts, and then I explained to you how to take a backup and how to restore those the configuration that we have backed up into the same grid and also to different grid. Then we touch based on the different types of upgrades, light upgrade and the full upgrade, and the difference between them. And then we learned about the upgrade groups and the purpose of the upgrade groups and how you can add and new upgrade groups, and then edit the properties of upgrade group. Then we went through the different steps of the upgrade process, the 4 different steps, and I'll explain to you what each of those steps means. And then we went and we looked into the how to schedule the upgrade and the distribution process. And then I explained to you about the order in which the distribute and upgrade happens if you are having a grid with grid master in HA or the members in HA configuration. And finally, I explained to you about how to apply a hotfix and how to perform the NIOS downgrade. So that's it for this video. Hope you found this video informative. I will catch you all in the next video. Thank you.